Hello everyone and welcome back to the Tent of Abraham. I'm Tamir Kreisman from Jerusalem, Israel. We continue with Pirkei Rabbi Eliezer. As always, the Torah that is taught here today and everything that comes from it is for the safety and security of our soldiers, our true soldiers. Let us thank God. Hallelujah Adonai kol goyim shebechu kol haomim ki gavar alenu chasdo ve'emet Adonai le'olam. Hallelujah. By the way, you should be saying this with me before every teaching, okay? All right, so this one is chapter 42. This is chapter 42c, and this one is called Judah's Cry. We're continuing with the Exodus, and now they are encamped by the sea, right? We're going to be speaking of this for a while. There's a lot to cover. So Rabbi Akiva says, Israel were going towards the Sea of Reeds, but they retreated from the fear of the water closing in on them. Now remember, despite everything they saw, they were still fearful, right? We don't dare judge. How do you think you would feel if you saw the greatest event in human history? The splitting of the sea. As we covered in great detail last week, so many things had to be in one place for no other reason than to build Israel's confidence that God could show them, whatever you can throw at me, I can do, not a problem. Again, you need to get into the mindset of where they were. How would you react if you were there by the sea after everything that you had been through, trapped your entire life in bondage and slavery because they were born into this, they didn't know any better, stripped of almost all human rights by the most powerful and glorious empire of the ancient world that your forefathers built, mind you, right? Remember Joseph? The only thing keeping you alive somehow is the hope that the creator of the universe, who according to your belief loves you so much, and yet your pain and suffering is unimaginable. Think about that mind frame, the state of mind that they were in. The fact that you held on to this belief earned you a right to see what God did to Egypt. If you held on that long without throwing away your faith, even though you don't see God, you don't hear from God, but you are told of these prophecies, you're told that you are the chosen people, then how come life is like this? But if you held on despite everything, that means you are truly part of Israel. This is exactly the same test that we as a nation are going through today. Believe it. People aren't even aware of this, of what I'm saying. There's just no awareness, just like they had difficulty understanding when this was coming into fruition. Okay, so it earned you your freedom and a front row seat to the greatest show of all time, as it will today. What I said and what I am saying applied to Israel back then, and so too today as well. So, when the waters split, again, something we cannot even begin to imagine. If we read the details, of course, right? All the Hollywood depictions, animated depictions, they cannot even do some of the things that we discussed last week. Haven't seen anything like that, right? If any of us saw something like this today, I think we would probably forget to breathe, as miraculous and awesome as it would be. So Moses tells the people to go in, and you think ill of them if they just if they balk? Don't think ill of them. Yeah, if I was there, I'd run right into the sea. No, you wouldn't. You would not. You and I would have been standing there telling Moses, you first, man. Let's see that that's okay, right? During the 10 plagues, God shows his complete control over all of the elements, including water. But this is a massive body of water, right? This is what covered the whole earth in the days of Noah. This is the sea. This is one of the ancients, the most powerful and largest entity in the world. Every step was necessary for the comfort of Israel because they absolutely had to go through this with their own 2 feet so that they could say after the fact, like we read in Exodus 14:31, and they believed in the Lord and in Moses as servant, meaning after this ordeal took place, that's where there was no doubt. God is in control of everything, of every element, of every aspect, because look at the show that he just put on right now. This display of strength and complete dominance and control. But you see how it always starts with fear and then reverence that leads us to tshuva. Remember this. This is what we are currently going through. You will be going through this process if you have not already begun, one way or another. So let's get into this with our text. The tribe of Benjamin wanted to enter, as said in Psalms 68:28. There Benjamin the youngest rules over them. V'sham Binyamin Sa'ir Rodem. Okay, now, I don't know why it's translated that way, but the Hebrew word Rodem comes from the word Yordim, descended, as in they descended into the sea. The Radal explains that before they were divided into banners and sections, they were encamped by the sea according to seniority, meaning the youngest one was closest to the sea, so this is Benjamin representing his tribe, and they were closest to the water, right? And I would assume that Reuben would be in the opposite direction. So while the tribe of Judah was pelting them with stones, what? As said in the same verse, there Benjamin the youngest rules over them, but rather Tza'ir Rodam descended. The princes of Judah pelt them with stones, as do the princes of Zebulun and the princes of Naphtali. Okay, so we'll explain obviously what's going on here. This is a bit peculiar, especially without an explanation. So let's give one. And since our commentators reference the Mechilta de Rabbi Ishmael, let's see what it has to say. You can, if you wish, find the translation on Sefaria. This is from Beshalach, chapter 6. This is Mechilta of Rabbi Ishmael. Exodus 14:22. And the children of Israel came into the midst of the sea on dry land. Rabbi Meir perceives it one way, Rabbi Yehuda another. Rabbi Meir said, when the tribes were standing at the sea, each said, I will go first. In the midst of the hue and cry, Benjamin sprang first into the sea. As it is written in Psalm 68:28-29, there Benjamin, the young, i.e. the youngest of the tribes, Rodem, like we said, descended, the princes of Judah, Rigamtam, that means to throw rocks. Margema, for instance, is a catapult because it throws rocks. See the Hebrew language. And the princes of Zebulun and the princes of Naphtali. Your God has commanded your strength. Be strong, O God, this strength which you have wrought for us. Read it not Rodam, but rather, as in to descend, but rather Red Yam, went down into the sea. Same thing. Whereupon Judah began to stone them, Rigamtim. An analogy. A king has two sons. He enters the younger son's room at night and says, wake me at sunrise. Listen to this, right? He goes into the younger son's room and says, wake me up at sunrise. And then to the older, it says, wake me on the third hour of the day. So for instance, if sunrise is, let's say, at 6, he tells the youngest one, wake me at 6 a.m. He tells the older one, wake me up at 9 a.m. Okay? The younger son comes to wake him at sunrise and is prevented from doing so by the older son, saying, he told me at the third hour, to which the younger counters, he told me at sunrise. So the king told two sons two different things, and they were unaware of who told him what, right? They were both correct. Their altercation awakens their father, who says, my sons, both of you acted in my honor. I will not withhold your reward for this. Thus said the Holy One, blessed be he. What reward will occur to the sons of Benjamin, who went down first into the sea, or at least to try to go down first? The reposing of the Shekhinah in his portion, i.e. meaning the temple, as it is written, Genesis 49:27, Benjamin tears first as a wolf, and in Devarim, Deuteronomy 33:12. Of Benjamin he said, beloved of the Lord, he will repose securely upon him. So you know, the area of the temple, I'm telling you this right now, the area of the temple is split between the plot of Judah and Benjamin. Benjamin is kind of not completely, but almost completely engulfed by Judah, right? So while Judah covers most of the temple, the line between Judah and Benjamin splits right by the Holy of Holies. So the Holy of Holies, where the Shekhinah rests, that is exactly in the plot of Benjamin, and the rest of the temple is the plot of Judah. Let's continue. And what reward occurred to the tribe of Judah, who stoned him? They attained to kingdom, as it is written, the princes of Judah, Rigamtem, the princes of Judah. It doesn't say, and Judah, the princes of Judah. In other words, right over there, they were given royalty. Rigma, connoting to kingdom as said in Daniel 5:29, and at Belshazzar's command, they clothed Daniel in purple, al-givana, like rigma. They're saying it's from the same root. Placed a golden chain on his neck and proclaimed that he should rule as one of three in the kingdom. Then, just to close out the verse, okay, although Pirkei Rabbi Eliezer doesn't go into it, let's see what Zebulun and Naphtali are doing here, because they're also in the same verse, right? The princes of Zebulun and the princes of Naphtali. Just as the Holy One, blessed be He, wrought miracles for the tribe of Judah and Benjamin by the sea, so He wrought miracles for Zebulun and Naphtali through Devorah and Barak later on, as written in Judges 4:6-7. And she summoned Barak, the son of Avinoam of Kadesh Naphtali, and said to him, the Lord, the God of Israel, has commanded, go, ascend Mount Tabor, and take with you 10,000 men of Naphtali and Zebulun. See, everything that everyone does, it always comes back. Perfect justice, perfect reward, perfect punishment, everything. And I will draw to you Sisera, the commander-in-chief of Yavin, etc. And it is written, Judges 5:18, Zebulun is a people that bared its soul to death, and Naphtali on the heights of the field. That's where we stop reading from Mechilta, okay? So now, but the Radal brilliantly adds that the reason Zebulun and Naphtali were mentioned here in favor is because they felt very comfortable with the sea. They had a natural inclination, right? As we know, Zebulun and Naphtali's plot were between the Mediterranean and the Kinneret, while the banner of Naphtali is that of a ship. He was a fisherman. He was a tradesman. His life was on the sea. And of course, since these events are related through the tribes, the Haftarah of Parashat Beshalach is all about the tribes of Zebulun and Naphtali in the book of Judges. When we read about, last week, was it last week already? Last week is Torah. 2 weeks ago, about the splitting of the sea, the Haftarah is about Zebulun and Naphtali, the same story right now that we read to you. So let's continue from our text. And Nachshon ben Aminadav was the first to jump into the sea. Beit HaGadol says that although the tribe of Benjamin did desire to move first, also because they were closest, it was Nachshon who beat them to it for the sake of glorifying God's name. He wasn't going in like, oh, I'm going to be first. He couldn't care less who was first. That's the difference here. That's why this was accredited to him. It's not like, okay, so you beat me, because it's not a competition. He heard the command, he ran, and straight away jumped into the sea, no question. Okay? And the Radal references Bamidbar Rabbah as far as how he got his name. They called him Nachshon because he jumped into the Nachshol, the surges of the sea. So Nachshon's name is surge. Get it? I mean, yeah, but that's what that is. Like we said, every name in the Tanakh has a meaning, and often we receive the names of the individuals based on their characteristics. What came first? Their names. In the heavens, already in the spiritual realm, came first. In other words, Kishmam Kenhem. According to their name, so they act. And even though, let's say he did not necessarily have this name at that point in time, it was his destiny. And we could see this with every single character and place and everything from the Tanakh. And they went to this place, and they sat down by this place, and they call it a name, and then an event happened over there, therefore this place was called that name. But wait a minute, so how come the Torah calls that place by that specific name before the event ever took place? You see what I'm saying? Abraham is called Abraham for a reason. So is Isaac, so is Jacob. They all had their names. This is predestined, as do we. And so, Nachshon ben Aminadav was the first to jump into the sea, sanctifying his great name before the eyes of all. We can see this in Psalms 76:2. Elohim is known in Judah. In Israel, his name is great. It's more like the way it's written in Hebrew, Noda b'Yehuda Elohim, be'Yisrael gadol shmo. It's more like Elohim is known through Judah. Okay, just like Genesis 12:3, where God is speaking to Abraham, saying, and I will bless those who bless you, and the one who curses you I will damn, and all the families of earth shall be blessed in you. But we've learned that it actually was through him, through Abraham. V'nivrechu becha, in you, through you. They had to go through Abraham's tent, right? Everyone who entered the tent of Abraham never left and was forever changed. And from that, all the families of the earth were blessed through Abraham. The blessing never came to them directly, but rather because they associated themselves with Abraham, he was the conduit for the blessing in the world, and the blessing went through him to anybody who crossed his path. That's how this works. So again, and Nachshon ben Aminadav was the first to jump into the sea, sanctifying his great name before the eyes of all. And by the governance of the hand of the sons of Judah, Israel followed them into the sea, as said in Psalms 114. When Israel left Egypt, the house of Jacob left a people of a strange tongue. Judah. This is, by the way, what do we say Beit Yaakov? Beit Yaakov are the women. Israel, the men. So Israel, the men and the women, right? Judah became his holy nation, Israel his dominion. Haita Yehuda lekodsho, they became his holy ones. Israel mamshelotav, memshala is a government. Israel his dominion, his governance. Again, a terrible translation though, right? Since Israel was his holy nation, it literally says, and Judah was his sanctification. Meaning, like we just read in PDE, sanctifying his great name before the eyes of all. That's exactly what Judah did. And why does our text use the word hand in by the governance of the hand of the sons of Judah? Ubememshelet yad, hand, bnei, the sons of Yehuda, right? Because this is the language of God, and this was part of the blessing and strength of Judah. From Jacob's blessing upon his deathbed to his son Judah, Genesis 49, 8 through 10. Judah, as for you, your brothers will acknowledge you. Your hand will be at the nape of your enemies, and your father's sons will prostrate themselves to you. A cub and a grown lion is Judah. From the prey, my son, you withdrew. He crouched, rested like a lion, and like a lion, who will rouse him? The scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor the student of the law from between his feet until Shiloh comes. We've already covered these verses, right? And to him will be a gathering of peoples. And from that moment, when Jacob blessed Judah, although Joseph was ruler of Egypt and of the known world, it was Judah who was the leader of the tribes. And then we have the blessing of Moses from Deuteronomy 33:7, when he blessed the tribes. May this also be for Judah. What is also? The two first blessings that came for Reuben and Shimon, as in also what God through Moses blessed them with. And he, Moses, said, O Lord, hearken to Judah's voice and bring him to his people. May his hands do battle for him, and may you be a help against his adversaries. What do the hands signify? It signifies the world of Asiyah, the world of action, and specifically the Sephirah of Malchut, kingship, where we are at. Everything is done here through deeds and through actions. Without that, this is why the Torah was given over here. The kingship is, of course, alluding to the line of David, as Mashiach ben David is sent by God to close out this reality as we know it, and with great comfort no less. And why is the blessing regarding God hearkening to Judah's voice? Because though we may need to still do with our hands in the physical realm, Judah knows that our power lies within our voice, within our cry. And when we cry out to God, he strengthens our hands. And if you didn't know this, Judah's cry is the lion's roar. As he's fully aware of where his power comes from and the source of his strength, it is not, nor has it ever been, his own. And it is for this reason that God made him king. Today, we forget. I say we forget, it's not... The people running the show, they're not even part of Israel. After some of the things that I've just learned not too long ago, I mean, it's there. I really don't even know who's left. Wow. Our power never lies in our strength, in our might. Army, come on. We still pray for the soldiers. They are innocent. Goodness. And also from over 3,300 years ago, God told us that it would be Judah who would cry out. And so it is. Hi, Jew here. As we read from Isaiah chapter 40 regarding the comfort that God is sending his people at the end of a long exile, and as we know, the comforter, Menachem, is one of the names of Mashiach. Let's read verses 9 to 11 to see the voice of strength followed by the hand of strength. Voice and hand. Judah. Upon a lofty mountain ascend, O herald of Zion, raise your voice with strength. O herald of Jerusalem, raise your voice, fear not. Say to the cities of Judah, behold your God. Behold, the Lord has come, shall come with a strong hand, and his arm rules for him. Behold, his reward is with him, and his recompense is before him. Like a shepherd who tends his flock, with his arm he gathers lambs, and in his bosom he carries them, the nursing ones he leads. So yad and zroa. Yad is hand, zroa is arm. And just one more verse on the matter of what the Radal presents over here from Proverbs 12:24. The hand of the diligent will rule. Yad chalutzim timshol. So once again, and for the last time, and Nachshon ben Aminadav was the first to jump into the sea, sanctifying his great name before the eyes of all. And by the governance of the hand of the sons of Judah, Israel followed them into the sea. And the Egyptians pursued Israel into the sea, but were fearful that the waters might fall upon them. This is, of course, understandable, right? I mean, if Israel were fearful going into the sea and God was telling him, go in, how do you think the Egyptians felt, right? We're still trying to reconcile the feelings of fright, shock, and awe of Israel who were commanded to enter, who saw the sea split with all its miracles by the hand of Moses according to the word of God. Now imagine the Egyptians who just had their entire empire destroyed over the last 6 months to a year, depending on the commentary, but okay, by the hand of God, of the very people that they were pursuing. And so they entered at first, ravenous and bloodthirsty, perhaps not realizing where they were, as they were focused more on destroying Israel rather on where exactly they were. This is the same concept of what we are dealing today with Amalek. What is a suicide bomber? I don't care about my life. I don't care about my children's lives. As long as you die, I am happy. I will gladly kill my children as long as you die. This is who we're dealing with. And yet, what part of that is humane? To ask of us for humanitarian aid for what? This is what's going on, right? Okay. Anyway, the moment they noticed where they were, right? They were like, no. And they wanted to run out, back the way they came. Even Pharaoh himself realized where he was and was considering retreating. But it is God who said, no. You had your chance, and now you can't leave. And this came to pass exactly how God told Moses it would happen in Exodus 14:4. And I will strengthen Pharaoh's heart, and he will pursue them, Israel. And I will be glorified through Pharaoh and through his entire force, and the Egyptians will know that I am the Lord. And they did so. Okay, great. The part where it says, and I will be glorified through Pharaoh, the Hebrew says, V'ikabda befaro, from the word kavod, which means honor, or in this case, it's translated to glory. Fine. But it also comes from the root kaved, which means heavy. And so when we see the same sentence, God will strengthen and harden Pharaoh's heart. Listen to it in the Hebrew. V'chizakti et lev paro v'radaf acharem v'ikabda befaro bechol chaylo. Chazak and kaved. Chizakti et lev paro, hichbadeti et lev paro. Okay, you understand? All right. These two things, they are not the same. And we can see this throughout the plagues, that sometimes God said strengthen, sometimes he said harden. Strengthen is when he was ready to quit. Like, don't quit on me now, Pharaoh. Come on, you hold your ground. And harden with pride. He knew, it's like, no. One is passive, one is aggressive. What did the Holy One, blessed be he, do? He appeared in the sea as a man riding upon a steed, as said in Song of Songs 1:9. At the gathering of the steeds of Pharaoh's chariots have I silenced you, my beloved. Lesusati berichvei paro dimiti chayati. And the steed that Pharaoh was upon, or the front one that's pulling his chariots, according to the Midrash, where it says al shelishim, according to the thirds that he harnessed his horses, meaning usually his chariot would hold 2 horses, but now he took 3 horses to get him moving. All right, so it was the lead horse in the chariot, saw this horse that God projected the image of, and he chased it into the sea. That's how horses are. They're very competitive. When one runs, so do the rest, always trying to catch up. And when the Egyptians saw that Pharaoh entered into the sea, they all followed after him, as said in Exodus 14:23. The Egyptians pursued Vaildefu Mitzrayim, and came after them all Pharaoh's horses, his chariots, and his horsemen into the midst of the sea. The verse here gives us the order of appearance, and so does the verse from the Song of the Sea in the next chapter, Exodus 15:19. When Pharaoh's horses came with his chariots and his horsemen into the sea, and the Lord brought waters upon the sea back on them, and the children of Israel walked on dry land in the midst of the sea. The moment that they were all inside the sea, the trap was boom, it was sprung, and immediately the water returned and engulfed them. As said in Exodus 14:28, and the waters returned, and they covered the chariots and the horsemen and the entire force of Pharaoh, coming after them into the sea. Not even one of them survived. And it is, of course, important to note that it mentions everyone except for Pharaoh, who were covered by water. And the waters returned and covered the chariots and the horsemen, the entire force of Pharaoh, right? There's no Pharaoh over here. So we know the story, right? Pharaoh was spared because he made tshuva, not for his own sake, but rather for God's name's sake. In other words, he didn't do it because he actually regretted. His tshuva was he admitted that he was nothing and God is everything. Then he was taken out of the sea and he was flung across the world and was placed on the throne of Nineveh in order to receive the prophecy from Jonah, the prophet Jonah, hundreds of years later. Now, if you recall many of our previous teachings across multiple series, we discussed the 10 lost tribes, right? This absolutely had to take place. In other words, the 10 tribes had to get gone. The trigger, of course, was the one who changed the times and feast days of God, who incorporated gold and silver idols, who removed the significance from Jerusalem and the temple, who forced his will upon the people under the penalty of death, and who started an entire new religion to spite God. This, of course, was Yerovam ben Nevat, the precursor to the false religion of the Edomites, right? Who did and continued to do the things mentioned here. Own days, own feasts. God doesn't hang out in temples that he told us to build. But no, beyond that, gold and silver idols, no problem. Okay. As a result of his actions and him being given the governorship of the 10 northern tribes, also known as the Kingdom of Israel, the 10 tribes would then be exiled by the Assyrians and dispersed among the nations, likely falling into what would become Christianity over thousands of years later, right? In fact, from the time that this took place, Christianity came about like 800 to 900 years later. And the organized religion, right? And who were the Assyrians, if not the inhabitants of the great city of Nineveh? You see, God saved Pharaoh to exact his will later on. It's like, I don't particularly like you, but you're definitely going to serve a purpose. It has nothing to do with Pharaoh and everything to do with how everything is supposed to play out. Though he did tshuva, in the last second was only to serve a purpose, as he is still considered, Pharaoh, to be one of the most wicked men to have ever lived. And he is now here again in this generation, and he will stand up and he will be judged before everyone. Everyone's going to know exactly who he is. Every single thing that has been done is being done and will be done throughout all of reality to serve a purpose. Remember that nothing is a coincidence. Ben Azai says, everything is according to its measure. Just as the Egyptians were proud and they exalted themselves and threw the Hebrew children into the river, so too did God throw the Egyptians into water. You want to throw my kids into water? Let's see who can really swim right now. As said in Exodus 15:1, then Moses and the children of Israel sang this song to the Lord, and they spoke, saying, I will sing to the Lord, for very exalted is he. A horse and its rider he cast into the sea. The word ga'ah, right? Oh, I got to read it in the Hebrew. Sorry. Az yashir Moshe b'nei Yisrael et hashira azot la'Adonai vayomer le'emo, right? Saying, Ashira I will sing la'Adonai, ki ga'o ga'ah, sus verochvo rama bayam. So the word ga'ah alludes to drowning throughout the Tanakh and also extra biblical text. Now, if you think that for a moment God is not in complete control of all of reality, think again. When people die, we never really know what account they had to pay or what it looks like in heaven, right? They could be righteous, they could be wicked. We have no idea. We might think they're righteous, but we still have no idea, right? Sometimes it could be very obvious, but others, we really have no idea. Like, for instance, I give you just an example, something fun, something that you can actually look up. During the Gulf War over here, I remember I was here, we were getting rockets from Iraq, Scud missiles. Missiles, not rockets. It was launched off the back of a truck, size of a small building. It did a bunch of damage here, but not a single person died. Not one Jew died, okay? Who is the only guy that died as a direct result from the rocket attacks was a guy who was importing and distributing pig in Israel. And he was in a miklat, meaning he was in his bomb shelter. Most buildings did not have bomb shelters back then. And he was in his bomb shelter, and the missile landed right outside, and the door just crushed him against the wall. That's death by skila. That's the worst kind of death that you could get from the 4 mitot beit din in the Torah. So I think like something like that, that's very obvious. Nobody from Israel died, but the guy who did this, he got crushed. Boom. We say Baruch Baruch Dayan Emet. We say that when a person goes because even though we don't understand, we trust God. But now we can see that we say, hey, Baruch Dayan Emet. Amen. Anyway, so let's continue. So, like we said, sometimes it could be obvious, sometimes we have no idea. So, if you didn't know this next part, buckle up. Rabbi Shila says, all the children that were thrown to the river by the Egyptians did not die, but rather the river spat them out and threw them into the wilderness of Egypt. That's right. And now when you read the verse in Deuteronomy 32:10, you might have a different understanding. He found them in a desert land, and in a desolate, howling wasteland. He encompassed them and bestowed understanding upon them. He protected them as the pupil of his eye. The nation of Israel was not found in a desert wasteland. They were settled in Egypt. And this is not about the people. This is about the children. Also, to speak more accurately, the Egyptian wilderness is not the same wilderness as the wilderness that Israel walked through for 40 years. Rather, it refers to their fields, right? Their farmlands. Now, before we continue over here, I just want you to understand, there are children that did die in the water, okay? Those that did die were not really from the root of Israel. We'll talk about that soon, okay? So look what Ezekiel says about this in Ezekiel 16, verse 5. No, I pitied you to do for you any of those, to have mercy on you, and you were cast on the open field in the loathsomeness of your body on the day you were born. What did Egypt do? They snatched the baby boys as soon as they were born, on the day that they were born, and they threw them into the river. Not a single one who truly belonged to God was killed. So again, make no mistake, there were plenty of children who died in the water as they or cemented them as bricks in the wall, but they were all from the root of the Erev Rav, and they all needed to go. At that point, they were the ones that actually, for instance, were put into the wall as bricks in the wall. These were reincarnated from the Erev Rav, from the nations who built the Tower of Babel, where it says, Hava nivne lanu levenim. Come, we shall build us bricks. Why bricks? To go fight God. Oh, you want to build bricks? How about if you were a brick? Boom. Into the wall you go. Just a brick in the wall, right? Okay, fine, no problem. What about in the river? Also, all of these guys were the root of Erev Rav. And I've told people this story before. You have to understand. You have to understand. Moses was praying for the Erev Rav. He says, no, they could be redeemed. They could do tshuva. They can't. What does this mean? That they don't have free will? They wouldn't do tshuva. So then, what was Moses trying to do? He was trying to get the sparks of holiness, nitzotzot kedusha, from them. How do you take a holy spark from an individual who has no redemption? Think about it like this. Let's say there are a lot of wicked people. Even a really wicked person might do one good thing in their life, okay? Probably more, even by accident, but let's say one good thing. That good thing is considered that mitzvah, which is an angel. That's another piece of the puzzle. That is a spark of holiness. And now that person, they got nothing left. That's it. It's done. It speaks of this also in Jeremiah 15, 18, 19, I believe, right? If you take the precious out of the mundane, that's what that is. So Moses was actually praying to God. He said, give me one child. Let me save one child. God's like, dude, I got this. Seriously, don't even worry about this. They're all going exactly where they need to go. Moses said, no, please, just give me one. Just give me one. And it was a back and forth thing. God said, dude, you don't trust me? It's not that I don't trust you, God. Of course I trust you, but let me try to save them. That was Moses' heart. We see what he was doing for Israel for 40 years. God said, fine, take whoever you want. And the child that Moses saved from the river, that turned into be Micha. Not the prophet Micah, Micha, but rather Micha as in the one with the idol, who built a shrine and a temple to his idolatry in the land of Israel. And I think we actually read this, that later on it was Moses' son, Gershon, who became his priest. And he wasn't even a priest, he was from the Levites, but in any case, it was a mess. Every single person is pinpointed. There are no accidents. You see, so if God tells Moses, I understand, yes, they are children and they are dying and you have mercy upon them, but none who belong to me are dying. Okay, so let's continue. So, like we said, we could see also why in this verse over here in Ezekiel, no, I pitied you, right? You cast into the open field in the loathsomeness of your body on the day that you were born. The very next verse says, and I passed by you and saw you downtrodden with your blood, and I said to you, with your blood live. I said to you, with your blood live. So this is an order of appearance. First it was the children. Later on, what is this? What are we reading about? This was Erev Pesach. When we have the Seder, this was during the plague of the firstborn, and later on, there was the Exodus. So the thing is, in Hebrew, blood is not in a singular tense over here, but rather in the plural tense. Listen what it says, Va'avo alayich va'ereich mitboseset bedamayich. Not bedamech. Bedamech is singular. Bedamayich, plural, your bloods. Va'omar lach, and I will say to you, bedamayich chai, in your bloods, plural, live. Va'omar lach bedamayich chai. Again, in your bloods you will live. What are these two bloods? The blood from the lamb that the Egyptians called God, so do the Edomites today. They worship the lamb god. This represented their strongest deity. So we were commanded to say, oh, that's your strongest deity? Okay, chain him to a bed for 4 days. Make sure that he's pure, that he's got no blemishes. Make sure that the Egyptians see that, oh, wait, are they coming over to our side? Take it out into the street, shave that sucker, and put it on the grill, right? Put it on the grill, let that lamb scent go all throughout Egypt, and eat it in the street so that all Egypt is going to see you eating their God. You understand? This shows what? We are not afraid of you. There is only one God, and this is lunch. That's it. And the other one, what is the other one? The other one, the second blood, the blood of the circumcision to reestablish the covenant. So again, one is to squash idolatry, because you can't get into a covenant as long as there's still idolatry. 1, 2, here we go. So what did God do to take care of his children who were tossed to and fro? And the Holy One, blessed be he, excuse me, would bring a stone to the mouths of the children, and another stone or rock by their side. And the rock in their mouths, they would suckle upon it, and it would give them honey. And the stone by their side, it would give them oil, just as an animal feeds its young. As said in Deuteronomy 32:13. Deuteronomy 32:13. He made them ride upon the high places of the earth, that they would eat the produce of the fields. He let them suck honey from a rock, and oil from the mighty part of a crag. Crag. Tzul. Another way of saying rock, right? That's basic pshat. Right here, 5 books of Moses. Simple text. This happened. And when they came to the sea as adults, right, they saw the Holy One, blessed be he, and they recognized him, praised him, and sanctified him. Now, as we had discussed in previous classes and in previous years, you should know this by now, Israel did not see the image of God. Only the Edomites can do that, right? God has no image, as he told us directly again and again, specifically after the 10 Commandments. You did not see any image of me. I spoke to you through the cloud and the darkness and the smoke and the fire, but you didn't see any image of me, because I don't have one. But how then can Israel identify or recognize God, as said according to Pirkei Rabbi Eliezer? You tell me right now. If you listen to the last 2 classes, you would know this answer like that. According to his deeds, right? So the moment Israel, who were literally hewn from a rock, right? Suckling from a rock, saw the imprint of God at the splitting of the sea. In other words, they saw the same miracles over here, and over here, and over here. They said, wow, behold, right? Which is when they said in Exodus 15:2, this is my God, and I will make him a habitation, the God of my father, and I will ascribe to him exaltation. And who do we say was responsible for all of Israel exalting God and hallowing his name? The tribe of Judah. As we read in Psalms 114, Judah became his holy nation, Israel his dominion. Judah were those who sanctified him, who hallowed his name. The strength of Judah lies in his cry, his voice, and his actions. Do not think for a moment that it is by any chance that today we are called Jews, and we are the remnant of Israel. Expect for the sea, listen to me now, expect for the sea to be raging and the world falling in on itself. You have no idea what's happening in Israel right now, but I will tell you this, our enemy, our real enemy, is from within. That's all I'm going to say right now. My mind is blown as to what is going on. You're not going to see that in the news. Anyway, the only way to flush that out is according to Judah's cry. That's it. Anyway, we're going to stop right here. This is our class for today. Obviously, next week, again, we will be continuing with the sea. So, as always, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for your incredible support. I appreciate everything that you guys do. I appreciate for you showing up every week. Have a wonderful rest of the week. Have a Chodesh Tov. Okay, Adar Aleph. We got 2 Adars this year. That means it's 2 months of joy and happiness. The Adar. What's so significant about Adar is that Amalek always tries to attack us, be it from the outside and be it from within. And so when they do this, you see, they say, "Oh, we're going to attack Israel because that's when Moses died." But these idiots, they seem to forget eternally that is also when Moses was born, as tzaddikim are born and die exactly on the same day, to show a completion. The circle is complete, the tikkun is done, they're good to go, right? So Moses was also born on Adar, And for that reason, we have this divine protection in his merit. He did bring us the Torah that we are teaching here today after all. So Rosh Chodesh Adar starts on Thursday night. It is 2 days this year, so which means Friday and Saturday. It ends Saturday night. So we have Shabbos and we have Rosh Chodesh Adar Aleph. Now, if they want to start a full-blown war, all we can say is, please, bring it. Okay, good talk. Anyway, y'all take care now. Be safe. God willing, I will see you next week. Have a Shabbat Shalom. Bye-bye.